Let me introduce to you Arne von Oosterom. He started a Design Thinkers Academy in 2006, and he's been exploring new ways of learning and organizing organizations since then. The session would be an experience and experiment for you because Arne wants you to live his idea of learning in a safe space, and he'll invite you to be as interactive as possible. Miro is the tool Arne invites you to use. There is a link in chat at this moment for quick comments, doubts, but he will tell you what to do with it. Mm-hmm. You can also use the Zoom chat for longer questions, so we can collect them. We will keep track of all the tools along the way. So I wish you a great experience. Arne, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Nice to see faces. So thank you for switching on your camera. It's always good to know who I'm talking to. Like Julia already said, I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment. I haven't done a presentation like this before. So that's kind of exciting. I actually invite you before I start this thing, to really click on the Miro. And if you're used to using Miro, go ahead and participate with me. Every now and then, I will show you behind me some of these green, where it says you, that's you, with some of these green post-its, and you just go and either give me a comment or some pushback or something that you agree or not agree, or a question, whatever you want to kind of, maybe I forgot something, or because I do forget something every now and then. So please do try to participate. I'm curious to see if that's something you will do, and if you do, please go ahead and make it as interactive as possible. The benefit of this is that this Miro board will be there until Miro goes bankrupt, I guess. I'm not going to delete it. So it's there. So whatever you want to leave there, also after my talk, I can comment on or ask, or we answer a question, or whatever you want to leave there. We can have a continuous conversation if you want to. I'll go through my history a little bit, so you know from which background I'm talking and what my experience is. In 2005-06, I founded Design Thinkers Group, which now is a global network organization. It's an ecosystem of professionals around the world. I then co-founded Design Thinkers Academy, which is basically an academy that is working with large corporates to either teach new skills or change organization or cultures, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a sort of a school that we started, which is interesting because I am a school dropout, which my mother thought was really funny. And now my main job now, because I sold my shares, I left that company. My main task at the moment is working at Under Armour, developing training and coaching programs, but also developing a learning community, because I very much believe in building learning communities. And at Under Armour, my task is to both use sort of new skills and new ways of working and developing new mindsets to help the company in a transition, like most companies are in a transition. So Under Armour is sort of where I build a learning community. I can talk a little bit more about that later if you're interested. I'll just go through my list of what I do quickly. Blue Sky Republic is my little baby I'm starting, and my future goal is to build a new academy called Future Skills Academy, and that's sort of what I want to do. At the moment, next to Under Armour, what I do is I run an online learning community called the Wednesday Web Jam. We started that because of the pandemic. We needed to learn. We just did our 100th anniversary show. Every Wednesday we have a show. It looks kind of like this. It's a platform to fail forward because that's the only way to learn. So that's a little bit what I'm kind of my background. If you want to know more about that, again, let me know. So my talk is going to be about education, training, learning, and learning space. But there are different reasons, obviously, why you would like to, or why you want your employees to learn or why you want to learn yourself. I would focus on education and training for change. So when learning is a driver for change, often, specifically now, a lot of companies are kind of dealing with complexity, new technology. There's the great resignation. How do you keep your talent in, et cetera, et cetera. There's all kinds of reasons. But my main reason for what I do actually is using learning and education and training and coaching for helping companies to change, to go through a transition. But an organization cannot really learn. It's people that learn, obviously. And you can't be agile if you're not a learning organization. So if agile basically means you have a heads-up mindset, you look at what goes on in the world, and you evolve, and you adapt, and but it means you have to change. That means you have to organize yourself completely differently. And you need people to be able to learn, and people don't really change if they don't learn new skills, new tools, new mindset, new behaviors. And people don't learn if they don't have time and safe space. So the two things that I consider the big boundaries, the big obstacles when I work with large corporates mainly, is that I can teach people a new way of thinking or working or a skill, and the feedback usually is, I don't have time. They don't even have time to really go through a course. They don't even have time and to kind of then apply it and then getting top-down support from it. So there's this, we teach them new things and then we say, yeah, but we don't have time. Oh yeah, but you have to do it quickly. You have to go through like, a few hours. Like how long is that training? Like can we do it like in half an hour maybe? Should it really take 4 hours? Like, okay, that's a big issue. You expect people to change through learning, but you don't give them the time and you don't give them the safe space. So because you teach them new skills, but you measure them with KPIs and all kinds of ways in a very different way. So they can't fail, for instance. One of the things that is a big problem, you teach them something new, they have to practice. If you don't practice, you can't learn anything. It's as simple as that. If you teach people to play piano and you give them half an hour and then you expect them to be able to play piano, they can't. They have to fail. They have to try. So that's sort of what I see as the big obstacles. And it hurts to learn new skills, or it's uncomfortable because new is always something you don't know. And it's always something that is outside of your comfort zone. It should be, otherwise you're not growing. So if you don't and there's one of my big heroes who used to say, if you're not prepared to be wrong, you can never come up with anything new. So, and not everyone can, this is another big question out there, which is sometimes painful. Do we actually have the right people? Are we teaching them new skills? And are these the people, because we hired them for something different, and now we're teaching them this, are they actually the right people? So those are the big sort of topics. And if you feel that I'm missing out on something, or, and I like that, so Wouter, and Nelson Mandela, I never lose, I either win or I learn, exactly. Leave me something here if you want, because I'd love to hear from you. Now, I want to kind of zoom in a little bit on safe space, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So these are sort of like, I just made this up. So this is not based on science or any research. It's just me kind of thinking about where do I find safe space. And I think there's three elements that I feel are really important that sometimes are missing. You have to know why people learn new things. Why are they teaching? Why are you teaching them new things? What are they learning and why? If you, I've done a lot of training programs where people had to go to the training because their boss told them so, so my question was, why are you here? I have to be here because I have to tick the box. So they really didn't know exactly why. You have to know what people need to learn, obviously. So what is it exactly you need to learn? But it has to be fit in with the why. So that if that doesn't fit, it doesn't really work. So people get insecure about this. But the main thing that I also feel that we're missing out on, how people learn. So how do they learn? Do we actually give them, again, time and the safe space? So if these three things are there, you know why you're learning something, you know that what you're learning actually fits to that why, it really helps you grow, and it really helps you either with your career or with whatever growth that you go through, so it is meaningful to you. And you also, it fits with how you learn it. So if you teach people for instance, I teach creativity a lot, but if I don't allow them to be creative, and if the training is just, sitting behind a desk and talking, then it doesn't work. So these three elements should fit. Now, tell me if you agree or not. Giovanna, I think you're leaving me a message. All right, I'm gonna zoom into that. Yeah, sometimes learning a new skill requires a different process. Yes, of course. I think, again, so what I was saying earlier, I think if you understand why people learn something and you understand what they learn, how they learn should fit to that. So, the how should learn, how you would learn. Now, I'm going to focus a little bit on that safe space. For instance, new technology. Now, I kind of said, here you are, here's a Mural link. And I said, go and play around with the Mural link and leave me a message. I use this technology, which is, I think we should all kind of start using this technology. But a lot of times, the people in my courses and training programs have never used it. They don't know this system. So does that make you feel like you're behind, or does it make you feel left out? A lot of people in a lot of the programs at the moment feel a little bit anxious about this, and they feel left out. So how are you doing this right now? So I'd love to kind of see whether the setup, maybe this kind of feels uncomfortable. Are you able to use this kind of technology? Does it make you feel like, I don't know, tell me. Good point. I love the brave space. Yeah, no, that's the thing. I mean, I totally agree. So it actually takes courage, because so to create a safe space for people, if you're a leader, you have to be brave. Because if you're not brave, no one else will be brave. So, which is actually leads to what I call sort of leading with empathy. Meaning that not so much sympathy, so the difference between sympathy and empathy being that empathy, meaning that start with you. If you are able to be vulnerable and brave, that's because the only reason why you're brave is because you're scared and you're vulnerable. So you open yourself up so other people can do too. So it needs a new kind of leadership. So I love the brave space is, I think, that's the key. When do you feel that you need to be brave? Again, that's the being uncomfortable, right? So you're brave when you're scared. You're brave when you're like, it feels awkward, or, like now I'm a bit nervous because I like seeing this happening, but I'm always a bit nervous that you would be like, oh, come on, So I'm very happy to see things popping up. So I feel nervous, but I like that because I just learned something while you doing this. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of nice. I've never used this before. And I'm thinking, that's great. You could also just kind of a whole big post-it with, I don't know, some really bad language there, which I don't really mind, but it could have happened. What do you see in the best use quantity of time to learn at best something new? I'm not sure if I understand that question. So what do you see is the best use quantity of time? So quantity of time, I think, so I'm not sure if I understand correctly, but I would say it is about continuous learning. So I just mentioned learning communities. And to me, a learning community is actually something that is across functional, cross-departmental, because we need to start working towards different organizational models where we kind of break through these silos, and we create environments where we share things with our peers. So it's not just an outsider doing a course, but it's actually an ongoing learning community of people that share, their experiences. So it's yes, we need to have sometimes like a day where we learn a new skill for sure. But sometimes, it's just also the lack of collaboration and co-creation with our colleagues, that we don't know what's happening in the other department, et cetera, et cetera. So a learning community being sort of, if you see your company as a learning community, how would you organize that learning? Cross-functional, cross-departmental, cross-hierarchy, because, and I think that's the main reason for it, is that we will see different kinds of organizational models coming up, which are more flat, which are less which are less structured in a way, more in ecosystems. So we really, really need to be able to create a culture where you learn together. About the
Arne,
yeah, go.
Arne, since you took a breath, let me remind you it's 10 minutes to go, please.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Now, I'm just going to read this one out. About the why learn, we let participants explicitly and voluntarily subscribe to programs for intrinsic motivation. When you ask the question, why are you here? They won't say because my boss, take the boss, or they'll come up with an intrinsically motivated reason, thereby building ownership. Totally agree. So, but if you then, so yeah, if you have that culture, where people really know why they're learning something, because it's clear where it's going. It helps them grow. They understand, and they take ownership for the training. It's as a facilitator, a coach, or a trainer, it's a completely different audience. If people are there because they want to be there, you feel it. Just like because they're hungry, they know why they're doing it, and they're hungry for knowledge, and they want to learn, and they want to participate. The only trick here is that if you also then allow them the time to practice what they've learned, and also to really start using it and to follow up long term, not just say, well, you did the training, no, because you learn to drive after you got your driver's license. That's when you start learning how to drive. So do you have the time and the rhythm for them to practice and practice and practice? Because that's basically how we create our new connections in our head going, the new skills is about practicing and not so much the training itself. The training is just the first step towards a new way of working, but that's when it starts happening. Growing is painful. How to make it joyful instead of painful. I think accepting painful is okay. I think I actually think not everything has to be joyful. That sounds a bit silly, but you can't feel. If you want to run a marathon, it's going to hurt. But when you achieve it, you're like, I did it. So if you know what your goal is, that's fine. If you don't know where you're going, if you have no clue why you're running, what it's for, then it is not okay. So feeling growth, I think I need to end here because of my, and I will kind of start reading the post-its and I'll add some answers to later, okay? But because my time might be up. I don't think Richard Branson came up with this idea, but I just saw this on the internet, and I've been saying this a long time. But if you need to have someone famous saying it, so it makes more sense to you. Then it's like, oh, it must be true because Richard Branson said it. But we all know you learn how to walk because you fall down. There's no other way. You learn to ride a bicycle, you have to fall down. There is no other way. If you don't have the safe space for people to fail, if they don't feel safe, if they don't feel that they can do. If it hurts them, if they have to be the expert, if they have everything needs to be perfect, if they can't be, if they can't experiment, if they can't try, if they can't fall down, they will not learn. They won't because they won't want to. They will not develop new skills, and those are not the people you want in your organization. And the other thing is, if they do want to do this, they'll leave your company, and this happens so often. the talent that is eager to grow, but you don't give them that space, and they feel that everything is threatening and scary, they will leave and they'll go somewhere else. So can you share how you are showing the Miro board behind you on the screen? Last thing, yes, because I think this is the future. We're not in VR yet, but I think every teacher and facilitator should have it. It's just this green screen, so it's a green screen, and I'm using an app called so it's the MMHMM, which is a weird name, and that allows me to do this. Which means that I can be here like a weatherman and I can point at things so you don't lose human contact. And as a facilitator or presenter, you're a little bit like more on stage, which is nice. But it means that I can kind of be more part, it's a little bit more real for people. And you can see the, hands and body language, which is so important for nowadays because we're starting to work more remote. We're going to stay working from home. I think we should, because it's awesome and it creates these amazing opportunities to make us self more available globally for, et cetera, et cetera. But, we have to kind of, this technology is just, this is just in its infancy. This is where it starts. Experiment with this. But again, don't leave people out, because if now I'm just throwing you at this Miro, and if you're not used to Miro, you feel left out. So make sure that too, is a safe space for people. So allow them that learning curve, allow them the time to learn, et cetera, to experiment with that.
Arne?
Yep.
So 5 minutes to go, please.
All right. Okay, cool. Okay, so I thought it was already done. Okay, anyone else that has a question or something you want to leave with me?
One more thing maybe for me, if that's okay, Anne?
Yep.
That's really fabulous, like the dynamic, the energy. And you're saying this is about they need to practice individually. In my experience, often that you need the safe space to see that the other person is struggling and so on. So to create and how, what is you experiencing in that? Because it's actually not a skill, an individual skill, but the culture of the organization which allows certain things.
Yeah, no, exactly. So hence I was talking about this learning community. You feel safe because someone else also struggles, if you know what I mean. Exactly. So it's like, you meet with peers, and often the more individually you are learning, the more you think that it's all your fault, or you are stupid, or you are behind. So creating sort of a community of people inside an organization that help each other and coach each other, peer coaching and helping, and not coming in, bringing in an external a coach all the time, but actually creating a culture and a community for learning. And we have the technology for it, like Miro, like Zoom, like WebEx, and we have WhatsApp groups, or there are so many tools that we can leverage and we can make use of that. It's not done yet. However, the main thing is, to your point, do it together. You do it together, and because that's how you can kind of build confidence, because often it is all about confidence. And how do you inspire, convince organizations to give time to employees to really train skills? Well, it's actually, so to me, it's a long-term game. It's actually necessity. The only time I think you can't convince organizations if they don't see that it's going to hurt them financially, big time, if they don't. So the question is, what if you don't do this? What if you don't give people the time? And if they don't feel that, they're not going to support it, because everything is fast and it has to go faster. We have to innovate, and the competition is on our tail or ahead of us, and there's all these kind of pressures on an organization. Everybody is under such a pressure, especially now more than ever. So you don't really convince them; they have to feel it. I think you have to be ready for this when the companies are saying, oh damn, we have to do this, to be ready for it. Because I think that's more what it is. There's a wave coming. It's there. Companies are trying to kind of hold on to their old ways of working and old systems, because it's really difficult to change a system because it's so complex. But it will, not because we want to, but it's going to have to, and it's going to happen. So that's my
Arne,
yes.
if I can interrupt you,
Yes,
leveraging
please.
what you just said, maybe you can let us know how you convinced Under Armour to adopt this new way of learning, or maybe they asked for it. How did it work?
Yeah, no, because they felt the pain. Like most companies, they felt the pain of not understanding who their consumers are, what they actually need, what they really wanted, and not being able to bridge sort of that. If they did understand it, how did they then connect it to the internal organization, where everybody's so under pressure? So they feel that, like all the corporates actually I've been working with, they know they need to do things differently. They see new organizational models pop up. They see the change in the world. They feel the complexity. They don't know what to do with the metaverse. They have no clue what to do with all the data they have. They have so many questions. And they don't understand how to humanize sort of because they're losing people. Like all corporates, like the big resignation is happening, and it's felt everywhere. So they had this big question, and their answer was all about, how do we now create a safe space for people to learn, and to really, really create a culture where people want to stay, where they grow, where they want to share information, where they're not scared to experiment, where to try out something new. So they were looking for new things. So I didn't have to convince them. And maybe they had some visionary people there at the time, and they do, I think. But they're not different than any other organization at the moment. It's the same. So it's not about me convincing anyone. I don't think I've ever convinced anyone of anything. It's actually, I feel, so me personally, since 2005, I've been on this wave of design thinking and service design and innovation and all that. And I just try to kind of be on that wave. I don't think I've been leading anything at all. I've been just I've been observing it. I believe that I'm a generalist. That's another thing, my last point. We also need generalists, not only specialists. We teach experts. We teach, and I'll leave you with the last image to kind of show you where I am from emotionally. So this is me at school. This is how I felt. I'm a school dropout. I didn't like systems. I didn't like to learn this way. I didn't like to be at school this way. So this is why it was my driving force of changing the way we learn and what we do, because that's what we teach kids, and that's the kind of adults we get. Be perfect, answer the right question the right way, don't change the question. And I think that's so wrong for this time. We need generalists, we need curious people, we need people to break the rules. Back to and I think...
Thank you so much, Arne. You are also perfect on timing.
Thank you.
Thank you for this intriguing and thought-provoking experience, learning and sharing safely in a community. It was a pleasure having you here. Thanks again.
Thank you.
And now I think we can stop the recording.